Hey guys, well, it's deer season time in Arkansas, and as you might be able to tell, I'm in one of my favorite deer stands here on our property. And deer season always reminds me of my brother Gregg. They call him Double G. Gregg died about 8 years ago now. He's my youngest brother. Gregg was special. He loved deer hunting more than anything in the world. So 3 months before, the 3 months of deer season, and the 3 months after deer season, Gregg was on point, excited. You know, Gregg never went to college. He had a pretty simple life, most people would call it. He he went through a lot of changes over the years. He became a highly trained technician, worked in my laboratory. He was just a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. People loved him. He was irritating as anyone I've ever known, especially for me. And, you know, even though he never really achieved a lot as far as financial achievement, he did some great things. He was constantly doing for other people. And every Christmas he would have a list that he made up of people that he knew, all different colors, all different races, that needed some help, and he took his meager savings and bought groceries and food for them, and he would always include some of his venison that he had harvested and processed and frozen. He would include that in boxes of groceries he'd take by before Christmas, and it was really appreciated by a lot of people, not just those people who directly benefited from having the food, but their parents, their children, their grandchildren. Everyone knew that Gregg was the one that did it. He didn't make a big deal out of it, but word got around. He'd pull up in his beat up old Toyota truck and start unloading stuff in front of their house, and it was really a special deal. I'm sure in the course of making these videos that I'll have other Gregg stories for you. But Gregg had a little piece of land way out in the middle of nowhere, a little town called Cornerville. And he called himself the mayor of Cornerville. There were about 10 people that lived in Cornerville. But he started a rumor, 30 years ago, that there were monkeys living in the woods around Cornerville, and that he was getting a little worried about it because he saw monkeys riding on the backs of the deer coming through the woods. And it's amazing how many people took this story that he would tell at the grocery store on the way to his house or whatever, and so many of them took it seriously that we had repeated stories that came back to us about how other people had seen those monkeys. So it's a family joke about the Cornerville monkeys riding on the deer in Cornerville. In fact, a number of the grandkids have made artistic depictions of the Cornerville monkeys riding the deer. Gregg loved deer hunting. And it was kind of funny because as a young child and as a teenager, he wasn't too interested in hunting, and therefore he never really developed a lot of the keen senses of a woodsman or of a marksman. So for years he shot at deer and never hit one. And finally, you know, I sat him down and we went through some practice. He got better, and he finally got to where he killed several deer every year. But he would get so frustrated. And he had a stand kind of like this, a little bit bigger, that he had made, and inside the stand it was all decorated. He had a Farrah Fawcett poster. Do you guys know who Farrah Fawcett was? She was the pinup girl of the 70s and 80s. He had a neon light. It wasn't hooked up, but a neon light for his favorite beer, which was Natural Light beer. He called it bankruptcy beer. So all these things, along with the weather that changes, the leaves falling off the trees, and the color, and just the slant of the sun this time of year, reminds me of Gregg. As simple a guy as he was, at his funeral, there were over 200 people that came to see him off. And he wanted me to make sure, he knew I would do the eulogy, he wanted me to make sure that we played the song, "It's a Great Day to Be Alive," country song. And he said, "Mike, make sure that everyone dances." So that's just what we did about 8 years ago. All the cousins and brothers and sisters and kids and adopted kids and the big expanded family, which made up about 50 people, and about 150 of Gregg's friends and people who had benefited from his life came to pay their last respects. And it's hardly, even after 8 years, hardly a week goes by that someone doesn't call me and say, "Hey, I was just thinking about Gregg and thinking about, some of the things we used to do and all the things he did for us." And I thought, what a great tribute. There are a lot of people that live a long life and achieve a lot. They go to higher education and have these gold-plated jobs and careers. And I've been to a lot of those funerals. There was nowhere near the outpouring of love and respect as there was at Gregg's funeral. It was really something special. And we danced at Gregg's funeral. Oh my goodness. Funeral home wasn't real sure that was allowed, but we got away with it. And that's one of the things about my faith that I appreciate so much, being a Catholic. The Catholic faith encourages us to pray for our family members and loved ones and friends who have gone before us, who've passed away. Even though we're not positive about exactly where they may be in the afterlife, we know what their promises are, and we're encouraged to pray for them, that our prayers will be heard, and that we can encourage our other family members to pray for that person. And it's such a sweet thought and promise and tribute that there is something we can do after someone's time on earth has been spent. And it helps us with our grief. It helps us with understand the promise for our life. It especially helps us approach death ourselves with a different attitude. Praying for my parents, for my brother Gregg, for all of my aunts and uncles and cousins who have gone on before me on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, gives me courage and hope and promise for what's left of my life, but also encouragement that my children will be inspired to pray for my soul after I've left this world. So I get kind of nostalgic this time of year, deer season. That's why I keep looking away. I'm looking for deer. We're lucky enough to have a beautiful place here. So I encourage you to think about your faith, think about who you are and what you are, and why God put you here. With Gregg's life, a lot of times we wondered We wondered a lot. But in the culmination of it, after 57 years, oh my goodness, what an outpouring of love. Special. So God bless you. And if you'd like to pray for Gregg with me, I'd appreciate it. Love you guys.